After 12 intense days of a certain limited military conflict, the United States has now announced a ceasefire between the State of Israel, which it has backed militarily, and the State of Iran. So let's take a look at the key players who negotiated this critical deal. Now, according to reports, the American President Donald Trump informed the Emir of Qatar that Israel had agreed to a ceasefire with Iran. He requested the Qatari ruler to persuade the Iranians to also agree to a ceasefire deal. Now, following the call, the Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani was tasked with holding talks with Iranian officials to secure Tehran's approval for a ceasefire. Now, Al Thani in fact worked very closely with the American Vice President J.D. Vance and his team to finalize the details of the ceasefire. And after announcing the ceasefire, J.D. Vance also underscored the Trump administration's intent to deter Iran from restarting its nuclear program.
If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again.
All right, now two other key players in the mediation were the American Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Now, according to reports, they were involved in direct and indirect communications with Iran. After Qatar brokered the U.S. proposed deal, President Trump in fact took to social media announcing the ceasefire. Now, Trump said that the ceasefire would be a phased 24-hour process beginning in 6 hours, with Iran unilaterally halting all operations, and Israel will follow suit 12 hours later. He also added that upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will kick in. After President Trump made the announcement, reports surfaced of fresh waves of missiles that were targeted at Israel. Several people were reportedly killed in Beersheba, about 4 people. Now, 6 hours after Trump's announcement, the US president made a second announcement, declaring that the ceasefire between Iran and Israel is now in effect. All right, so there is an ongoing press conference of the Qatari Prime Minister Al Thani and the Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, who are holding a joint press conference as we speak at the moment. And the Qatari Prime Minister strongly and vehemently condemned the Iranian attack on the American military base, even though the Americans and the Qataris were given due notice about this attack. And the Americans had cleaned out their entire of the Al Udeid air base and their military assets from there before the Iranian attack happened, and therefore there were no casualties or any injuries to any of the American soldiers who were in fact posted there. All right, so this of course is the latest bit of information that is coming in, where the Qatari Prime Minister has said that the violation of the Qatari airspace in the region will not be tolerated. He also said that we hope that the belligerence by the State of Israel against Gaza will be brought to an end. And he has thanked the Prime Minister of Lebanon for his visit. And he further said that he hopes that nuclear talks are resumed. However, the violations in ceasefire was witnessed this morning, and we hope that peace would prevail. These are some of the comments that have been made by the Qatari Prime Minister. He further went on to state that we should look at the situation with reason and responsibility. The flagrant violation on regional states by Israel and Iranian attack on Qatar would only bring instability to the region. And he also pointed out that there were friends in the United States who proposed that Qatar would initiate communication with the Iranians. We followed, and the announcement was made by Trump. So clearly pointing out that it is the Americans who reached out to the Qataris to reach out to the Iranians, and it was not the Iranians who reached out for a ceasefire, but rather the Americans who initiated these talks through Qatari mediation. And the Qatari Prime Minister has also said that he thanks the Lebanese Prime Minister for his visit. Remember, the region still is on the edge. We still do not know as to whether this ceasefire that, remember, has been announced by the Americans, that was initiated, it appears, from the American side on the request of the Israeli side, whether it will hold or not. There is a big question mark on this. It is a very fragile ceasefire because things can go wrong at any moment. And we need to wait and watch as to what, of course, happens. Let's in fact dip in and listen in to what's being said there.
بالحقيقة العبارة اللي أنا استخدمتها هي بسط سلطة الدولة على كامل أراضيها بقواها الذاتية. هذه جملة من اتفاق الطائف وهي موجودة في البيان الوزاري اللبناني.
All right, so that of course is the Lebanese Prime Minister now addressing the joint press briefing along with the Qatari Prime Minister, but some very important points that have been made, that it is important for the belligerence by the State of Israel against Gaza Strip and the Palestinians should be brought to an end. This is what the Qatari Prime Minister has said. He also went on to state that a phone call was received by the Iranian President, by the Royal Highness. So that is to say the Qatari King himself was involved in the mediation efforts. However, the violation of the Qatari airspace and the Qatari territory where the Al Udeid Air Base is stationed, which is the biggest military base of the Americans in the Middle East, is something that will not be tolerated. This is what the Qatari Prime Minister has just said in his press briefing. And he also urged all sides to exercise restraint. This is what he said, and I quote him here: "We should look at the situation with reason and responsibility. The flagrant violation on regional states by Israel and Iranian attacks on Qatar would only bring more instability and chaos to the region." So the American President Donald Trump earlier announced a ceasefire that reportedly has been accepted by the State of Israel. He asked both Iran and Israel not to violate it, and my colleague Jyotsna Kumar tells us more about how the ceasefire was in fact brokered. This, as reports have now surfaced of several ceasefire violations as well. Take a look.
Of course, a lot has developed over the 12 days. U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed that a ceasefire between Israel and Iran is now in place and asked both the countries not to violate it. Trump has narrated the war on social media in real time since day one. Now let's take a look at how it all unfolded on the U.S. President's Truth Social network. On June 16th, Trump took an early departure from the Group of Seven Nations summit, but said it had nothing to do with working on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, but something much bigger than that. The next day, that is on 17th of June, Trump demanded Iran's unconditional surrender. In a series of posts, the U.S. president claimed that his administration exactly knew where Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei was hiding. And Trump said Khamenei was an easy target, but safe there, adding that they are not going to kill him now. He, in the following post, said his forces had complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Next, on 18th of June, while there were no posts when asked whether U.S. will join Israel military in its campaign against Iran, Trump said, "I may do it, I may not do it." Speaking outside the White House, he added, "Nobody knows what I'm going to do. Iran's got a lot of trouble."
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
Now, on the next day, that is on the 19th of June, which was a federal holiday for Juneteenth, Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, scheduled a briefing in which she said that the U.S. president would make a decision in the next 2 weeks.
I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks."
But the day after, that is on the 20th of June, he held a meeting with his national security advisors. All this while, there was complete silence on Trump's Truth Social network while the world anticipated U.S.'s next move. On June 21st, around midnight, came the first post announcing the completion of a successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. That is Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Now, speaking specifically about Fordo, he said full payload of bombs was dropped on the site, while adding that all planes were safely on their way home. Now, writing in all caps on his account later in the day, Trump warned that any retaliation by Iran against the U.S. will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed in the attack. On the same day, he commented on the subject of regime change in Iran, asking if the current regime is unable to make Iran great again, why would not there be a regime change? There's a question. Now, in the post that followed, he touted U.S.'s success in Iran. In one of these posts, Trump claimed that sites hit were totally destroyed, adding that only the fake news would say anything different in order to try and demean as much as possible. Now, just yesterday, Trump confirmed Iran has officially responded to what he called U.S.'s obliteration of their nuclear facilities, going on to call it a weak response. He also thanked Iran for giving advance notice of its plans so as to minimize potential casualties. In the following post, he congratulated the world and announced it's time for peace. 2 hours later came another stunning missive. The president claimed before the countries in question had said anything of the sort, that Israel and Iran had both agreed to a complete and total ceasefire. Highlighting that the ceasefire, the plan, the U.S. president claimed that the war could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it did not. The post ended with God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. Well, that's all the developments we saw from Trump's social media. Back to you, Haim.
All right, after multiple postponements, NASA has now set a new launch date for the Axiom 4 mission to the International Space Station. Now, according to the latest update, Axiom Space, SpaceX and NASA are now aiming for a launch on the 25th of June. And according to a NASA release, the launch is in fact targeted for 12:01 p.m. Indian Standard Time on Wednesday for the launch of the 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station, carrying India's Shubhanshu Shukla. The statement is also added that the crew will travel to the orbiting laboratory on a new SpaceX Dragon spacecraft after launching on the company's Falcon 9 rocket. The targeted docking time is approximately 7 a.m. on the 26th of June. Now, the Axiom 4 mission is a private astronaut mission. Its crew includes members from India, Poland and Hungary. Now, Peggy Whitson will command her second commercial human spaceflight mission, adding to her standing record for the longest cumulative time in space by an American astronaut. Now, Shubhanshu Shukla will be India's second national astronaut to go to space in 41 years. And Poland's Sławomir Uznanski and Hungary's Tibor Kapu are the mission specialists. So let's talk about India's Shubhanshu Shukla. Group Captain Shukla is a pilot in the Indian Air Force. He's been picked as one of the 4 astronauts for ISRO's historic Gaganyaan mission. That is India's inaugural human space flight as an Indian Air Force pilot. He has received his training in Russia and his experience of flying the Su-30, the MiG-29 and the Jaguar. Now, Axiom 4 represents a milestone for India's human spaceflight program, integrating with ISRO's Gaganyaan initiative. And Axiom 4 provides the first opportunity for an Indian astronaut. Now, Shukla and team will be conducting a series of experiments on board the International Space Station, and these will include certain key scientific studies from testing edible microalgae and the space seed sprouting to muscle regeneration and tardigrade survival. Now, also on the cards is research on cyanobacteria and human electronic interactions in microgravity. Axiom 4 mission to the International Space Station has been put on hold at least 6 times. The first launch date for the mission was set for the 29th of May. And WION's Siddharth MP has sent us this report. Listen in.
There's less than 24 hours to go for the liftoff of the American human spaceflight mission Axiom 4 from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This mission, which will be carried out using a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket and Crew Dragon capsule, will be carrying 4 astronauts to the International Space Station. This includes India's group captain Shubhanshu Shukla, who will be the first Indian astronaut to travel to the International Space Station and also the second ever Indian astronaut to undertake space flight. This mission, after liftoff at around 12 noon Indian time on Wednesday, will take about 28 hours to reach the International Space Station. This is because space travel to the space station is not in a straight line. They have to go in circles, which is why the craft will have to sync up and rendezvous with the space station using careful maneuvers and then dock with the space station. Docking is expected around 4:30 p.m. Indian time on Thursday. Let's remember that after docking with the space station, the astronauts will spend about 2 weeks aboard the space station. All 4 of them will spend 2 weeks there and carry out at least 60 experiments, all of which are of crucial importance to their respective countries and respective space agencies. From Chennai, Siddharth MP, WION World is One.
An arrested high-profile jewel thief in New York, Yarong Won, has pleaded guilty to stealing diamonds worth about $260,000 from the stores of Tiffany & Co. and Cartier in New York in 2024. Now, Won also has an Interpol arrest warrant against his name for an earlier jewel theft in South Korea. Now, Won in fact admitted to pulling off the heist through a series of sleight-of-hand tricks. Based on testimony during interrogation, the prosecutors say that Won had switched a real platinum-mounted ring for a cubic zirconia replica after he inquired about several pieces of jewelers at a Tiffany's flagship store on New York's Fifth Avenue. A week later, Van visited the Cartier shop in Hudson Yard and then looked at 2 engagement rings and 2 watches, but was able to slip 1 ring into his pocket while the salesperson was distracted. Now, according to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, 50-year-old Van is also a prime suspect in thefts at jewelry shops in New Jersey, California and Florida. He now faces 9 years in prison. Van is also wanted for a $330,000 diamond theft in South Korea and has an Interpol arrest warrant against his name. All right, let's also now get you some updates from the world of sports. There were some pretty contrasting fortunes for 2 European powerhouses, the FIFA Club World Cup. While European champions Paris Saint-Germain booked their place in the last 16, the Spanish giants Atletico Madrid were knocked out despite beating Brazil's Botafogo. The Luis Enrique's side was stunned by Botafogo in their previous Group B game. The reigning French and the European champions needed a pretty strong response, and they got just enough of it. The PSG weren't at their best, but they did enough to beat the Major League Soccer's Seattle Sounders. Kvaratskhelia opened the scoring in the 35th minute, deflecting Vitinha's shot into the net. The PSG in fact continued to threaten but could not extend their lead before half-time. Now, the second goal came in the 66th minute when Ashraf Hakimi slotted home Bradley Barcola's pass. And that sealed the deal as PSG advanced to the knockout stage as Group B winners, and they'll face Lionel Messi's Inter Miami in the next round. Now, despite the win, PSG boss Luis Enrique was in fact not pleased with the pitch conditions in Seattle. He hit out the quality of the surface at the Lumen Field, saying that the ball had in fact bounced around a bit like a rabbit.
A mí me importa el estado del terreno de juego.
What does matter is the condition of the pitch, and I say that today after we won. They are way off the condition of the pitches in Europe. A lot. It's fine. But the ball bounces like it's a rabbit. Today, because it used to be artificial and now it's natural, they had to fix it. In the break, they had to treat it, but every 10 minutes it went dry. For our style of game, it's a problem. Obviously, I'm not using this as an excuse. I'm saying this today after we won, but it's a problem.
Now, in the other Group B game, Atletico Madrid knew that they needed to win at least by 3 goals and to make it to the knockouts, but Diego Simeone's side struggled to break down a resolute Brazilian defense for most of the game. The only breakthrough came in the 87th minute when Antoine Griezmann finally found the back of the net. But it was too little, too late. As Botafogo qualified as Group B runners-up, they'll now face the winners of Group A in the last 16, while Atletico Madrid crashed out. Now, the ongoing Milan Fashion Week has a lot happening for fashion lovers, and amongst them was also Prada's new show. We'll leave you with these images. Thanks for watching.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching Beyond World is One with me, Raisha Sehgal. Lots planned for you on the show. Let's get you started with the headlines. Iran says it remains on high alert and is ready to respond to any act of aggression. claims it has compelled Israel to unilaterally halt its offensive. Israel's defense minister says he has instructed the IDF to respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire, warning intense strikes against regime targets in Tehran. This after Iran fired 2 ballistic missiles after a ceasefire was supposed to take effect. IAEA chief urges Iran to resume cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog, says he hopes to meet soon with Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, indicates push for renewed dialogue to reinforce the ceasefire. Iraq reopens its airspace to international air traffic after Israel's acceptance of a ceasefire plan announced by US President Donald Trump. US President Donald Trump and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky likely to meet on the sidelines of the NATO summit in The Hague on Wednesday. That's according to sources. Sanctions on Russia and arms for Kyiv likely to be the focus areas. "268 Indian nationals returned to India from Israel in the third evacuation flight. 594 Indians have returned so far from Israel as part of Operation Sindhu. UN condemns what it calls weaponization of food for civilians in Gaza as a war crime, says Israel's humanitarian assistance mechanism contradicts international standards. Atletico Madrid crash out of the inaugural Club World Cup despite winning against Brazilian side Botafogo. It traps a disappointing trophy-less season for the side. After 12 intense days of high-voltage military conflict, the United States has now announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. We now take a look at the key players who negotiated this critical deal. According to reports, US President Donald Trump informed the Emir of Qatar that Israel had agreed to a ceasefire with Iran. He requested the Qatari ruler to persuade Iran to agree to the ceasefire deal. Following the call, Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani was tasked with holding talks with Iranian officials to secure Tehran's approval for the ceasefire. Al Thani worked closely with US Vice President J.D. Vance and his team to finalize details of the ceasefire. After announcing the ceasefire, Vance underscored Trump administration's intent to deter Iran from restarting its nuclear program.
If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again.
Well, two other key players in the mediation were U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. According to reports, they were involved in direct and indirect communications with Iran. After Qatar brokered the U.S. proposed deal, U.S. President Donald Trump took to social media announcing the ceasefire. Trump said the ceasefire would be a phased 24-hour procedure beginning in 6 hours, with Iran unilaterally halting all operations. Israel would follow suit 12 hours later. He added that upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will kick in. After Trump made the announcement, reports surfaced of fresh waves of missiles directed at Israel. Several people were reportedly killed in Beersheba. 6 hours after Trump's announcement, the U.S. president made the second announcement, declaring that the ceasefire between Iran and Israel is now in effect. Well, earlier we spoke to foreign policy experts and analysts on the situation in West Asia after Trump's announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Take a listen.
The big question then becomes, how long does it last? Do both sides accept it as permanent or at least long-term? Do both sides, really the United States and Iran, sit down and talk? What happens to the nuclear program? Those are questions that can only be addressed if the two sides stop shooting at each other.
I don't put too much weight behind what President Trump has to say. I put actually more weight behind what Prime Minister Netanyahu will do or won't do. Because since they have the last 12 hours to end this ceasefire, they could attack a lot stronger than they have been up to this point. Which then brings the counter argument of, well, if Iran gets to attack first in those 12 hours, within that full 24 hours, Iran then might strike a lot harder and a lot more sites because they know this is their last strike. So there's also that to consider. And with any ceasefire that we have seen throughout the modern history, just because someone says there's a ceasefire, it doesn't mean that it's going to hold. If it's just verbally, or in this case, a tweet, it doesn't really hold much weight. It's more about practically what's going to happen in the next couple of days and weeks, and obviously months and years.
Well, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has downplayed concerns about Iran's potential possession of highly enriched uranium, saying that recent U.S. airstrikes have significantly erased Tehran's nuclear program. In an interview on Fox News Special Report with Brett Baer, Vance said Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon, but now it is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because the United States of America has destroyed it.
The president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing.
Vance said that the United States of America successfully achieved its goal of burying the uranium and dismantling Iran's enrichment program, preventing the enriched fuel from being converted into a nuclear weapon.
If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term.
The U.S. Vice President claimed that Washington demonstrated its ability to launch a long-range attack, flying a bunker-buster bomb from Missouri to Iran without detection, and asserted that the U.S. can eliminate any nuclear capabilities Iran might build.
If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that the lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity you build up.
On regime change in Iran, Vance emphasized that the US is not pursuing it through any military means, though it would welcome such a development if led by the Iranian people. The US Vice President further added that Israel stands to gain from the ceasefire as it has accomplished key military goals, including dismantling Iran's nuclear program and missile capabilities. He also suggested that Iran should now pursue the path of peace after it has become clear that they are not good at war. Flights grounded, airspaces shut, and passengers stranded across the Gulf. Iran's missile attack on a US base in Qatar has unleashed chaos across the aviation sector. With Qatar and Dubai temporarily closing the airspace, airlines worldwide are now facing cancellations, diversion costs, and crew disruptions. This escalation is the biggest aviation disruption since the Ukraine war. On Monday, airlines across Europe, Asia and the West Asia scrambled to avoid Gulf airspace after Iran fired missiles at the US's Al Udeid base in Qatar. Flight tracker Flight Radar 24 showed more than 20 aircraft bound for Doha diverted mid-air. 4 more flights heading to Dubai turned back. Bahrain has also temporarily closed its airspace. Well, as the tensions escalated, dozens of flights from Air India, British Airways, Finnair, Emirates and Japan Airlines were either grounded or rerouted. Flights were either returned to their origin airports or sent through alternate air corridors. For airlines, the cost of rerouting is already mounting. Longer detours mean higher fuel use, delays and crew unavailability. Aviation experts say that each detour could reportedly add 10 to 15% of the operating costs. With Russian and Ukrainian airspace already closed since 2022, the West Asia was the next best option. Now that too was becoming a no-fly zone. As per Reuters, about 1,400 daily flights that use Gulf routes now face rerouting. Airports in Doha and Dubai handle 400,000 passengers a day. Another 80,000 pass through Abu Dhabi. In a bid to reassure passengers, airlines have issued new advisories. Qatar Airways has resumed flights after airspace reopened on Tuesday. Emirates confirmed it is operating routes well distanced from conflict areas. Meanwhile, Air India halted services to West Asia, Europe and the US East Coast. And Indigo is prudently and progressively resuming services. Governments too have acted quickly. The US State Department has issued a worldwide caution over travel risks following the attack on Qatar. The UK Foreign Office has advised British nationals to follow local authorities' advice, and India's External Affairs Ministry has urged the Indian communities in Qatar to be cautious and remain indoors. Well, a top NATO commander is urging Britain to take the lead in intelligence and surveillance operations as the United States shifts more of its military focus towards Asia. French Admiral Pierre Wandier, who is NATO's Supreme Allied Commander for Transformation, says that the United Kingdom is uniquely positioned to fill critical intelligence gaps that may emerge as Washington pivots to the Indo-Pacific. In an exclusive interview with the House magazine, Admiral Wandier warned that American resources from experts to satellite coverage may be stretched thin as tensions with China grow, leaving Europe more vulnerable unless allies step up. He said, and I quote him here, "The US may lack satellite people, experts and brain time if they are focused on China and not be able to help the Europeans to build their joint prioritized target list for a NATO military operation." Wandier believes Britain's long-standing intelligence infrastructure, especially GCHQ and MI6, should play a central role in NATO's future surveillance systems, which aim to predict and detect threats across land, sea, air, and even space. He also said, and I'm quoting him again, "I think the UK has this in its DNA and so may be useful to build this new generation of C4ISR in NATO." Admiral Van Der's comments come as NATO braces for continued provocations from Russia, including cyber attacks and aerial incursions that test the alliance's unity and response times. He also warned that a more opportunistic attack from Moscow could come before NATO countries reach a new proposed defense spending target of 5% of GDP, a goal expected to be set at this week's summit in The Hague. Britain remains a key player in the Five Eyes intelligence sharing alliance with the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand, and a legacy that Admiral Van Der says should now help lead NATO into a more secure and prepared future. Well, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is in China to attend the 20th meeting of the SCO Security Council Secretaries. Ahead of the SCO meet, NSA Doval met Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Beijing. Doval emphasized the need to counter terror in all its forms and manifestations to maintain overall peace and stability in the region. This was the first meeting between the two since the military confrontation between India and Pakistan in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack. According to the MEA, both the sides reviewed recent developments in India-China bilateral ties and underscored the need to promote the overall development of India-China ties. Doval also invited Wang Yi to New Delhi to discuss the resolution of the border dispute. The NSA is now likely to hold bilateral discussions with other key counterparts, including those from Russia and Central Asian SCO member states. Later this week, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh will also travel to China for the Shanghai Cooperation meeting between June 25th and 27th. The SCO meetings this week are expected to lead up to the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting in July, wherein India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is expected to attend. Later in the year, China will host the SCO Leaders Summit in Tianjin, where Prime Minister Modi is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. NSA Doval had last travelled to Beijing in December when India and China had agreed on a set of 6 consensus, including resumption of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, trans-border river cooperation and also Nathula border trade. The first set of Indian pilgrims will reach Kailash Mansarovar later this week. In a tit-for-tat move, both India and Pakistan have extended the closure of their airspace for each other till July 24th. The extension was communicated through a fresh NOTAM issued by India and Pakistan aviation authorities. Now, since April 30th, Indian airspace has been closed for planes registered, owned, leased or operated by Pakistani airlines, including military flights. The ban was imposed as a part of several measures undertaken by the Indian government against Pakistan in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack on April 22nd. Earlier on May 23rd, India had extended NOTAM restricting its airspace for Pakistani aircraft and airlines till June 23rd. Pakistan, on the other hand, had imposed an airspace ban on April 24th and had barred Indian carriers and aircraft from overflying Pakistani territory. Islamabad has now extended the NOTAM till July 24th. Reports suggest that around 800 flights per week are being impacted by the airspace closure. An arrested high-profile jewel thief in New York, Yaroing Won, has pleaded guilty to stealing diamonds worth $260,000 from the stores of Tiffany & Company and also Cartier in New York in 2024. Wan also has an Interpol arrest warrant against him for an earlier jewel theft in South Korea. Wan admitted to pulling off the heists through a series of sleight-of-hand tricks based on testimony during interrogation. Prosecutors say Wan switched a real platinum-mounted ring for a cubic zirconia replica. after he inquired about several pieces of jewelers at a Tiffany's flagship store on New York's Fifth Avenue. Well, a week later, WION visited the Cartier shop in Hudson Yards and looked at 2 engagement rings and 2 watches, but was able to slip 1 ring into his pocket while the salesperson was distracted. According to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, 50-year-old WION is also a prime suspect in thefts at jewelry stores in New Jersey, California and Florida. He now faces 9 years in prison. WION is also wanted for a $330,000 diamond theft in South Korea and has an Interpol arrest warrant in his name. Well, a dangerous and widespread heat dome is gripping parts of the United States and Europe this week, bringing record-breaking temperatures to cities unaccustomed to this kind of early summer heat. Forecasters in the US say that temperatures may rise further and the worst may still be ahead. As of Monday, 245 million Americans, that's nearly 3/4 of the US population, were enduring temperature of 32 degrees Celsius or even higher. On Tuesday, 33 million are expected to face temperatures of 38 degrees Celsius or even more. Cities like Boston, New York, Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. are forecast to experience daily highs into the upper 30s Celsius, with humidity pushing the feels-like temperature even higher, up to even 43 degrees Celsius in some areas.
The record heat that's expected, which in some places tomorrow could be all-time for June, not just daily records, that'll relent as the days go on. A little of that is the record highs getting hotter as you get in July, but the rest of that is because of the trough weakening and lifting out, the ridge is going to weaken too once we get into Wednesday and Thursday. But still, it's going to take a while for temperatures to get back to average. It could take a week.
New York hasn't hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius since 2011, while Philadelphia has not recorded a triple-digit day since 2012. In the Midwest, South Dakota's Huron Airport had 39.4 degrees Celsius, 13 degrees above the June average, while St. Paul, Minnesota recorded a nighttime low of 27.8 degrees Celsius, just shy of the city's all-time warmest June night. Last week, countries like France and the United Kingdom experienced major above-average temperatures. In southwestern France, the town of Tusson hit 39 degrees Celsius on Saturday, defeating its all-time June record by a tenth of a degree. While temperatures dipped Sunday, high pressure is expected to bring more intense heat this week, with central France possibly reaching 38 degrees Celsius as early as Wednesday. Forecasters say hundreds of daily peak temperature records for both daytime highs and nighttime lows could be broken early this week, making this heat wave one of the most oppressive in recent years. Health experts are urging people to stay hydrated, limit outdoor activity, and check on vulnerable neighbors. Aflac, one of America's largest insurance firms, recently experienced a data breach. The company confirmed the breach detected on June 12th, which was quickly contained, and that customer services remained uninterrupted. The extent of the stolen data is not yet clear. According to Aflac, the stolen data includes customer social security numbers, health records, insurance details, and even data linked to employees and agents. The recent data breach is believed to be the work of Scattered Spider, a hacking group known for its targeted industry-specific attacks, often involving ransomware. Now, this is the same group linked to the high-profile September 2023 ransomware attacks against MGM Resorts and Caesars Entertainment. According to Google's threat intelligence group, Scattered Spider has now turned its attention to the insurance sector. Earlier this month, US-based Erie Insurance and Philadelphia Insurance were also hit by similar breaches. On the world of sports now, Lionel Messi is set for a reunion with his former club PSG. Messi's Inter Miami will face the European champions in the round of 16 at the FIFA Club World Cup. Miami were up against Brazilian side Palmeiras in front of an electric crowd at Hard Rock Stadium in Florida. Luis Suarez set the tone for Miami with a brilliant assist for Tadigo Alande. The Uruguayan then added a goal of his own. But Palmeiras fought back, striking twice in the final. 10 minutes through, the 2-2 draw was enough to send both the teams through while Porto and Al Ahly were eliminated. Well, for Messi, who celebrates his 38th birthday on Tuesday, the next stop is Atlanta and a first meeting with PSG since his exit in 2023.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
It's very important that the team was able to compete. This level of the Club World Cup, despite qualifying, I think we've left our mark as a competitive team. And I think this is good for us to see where the limit really is for the MLS. This is the message that we're. Beyond that, we've got to prepare for what's coming. We know it will be a challenge, just as this round was.
And with that, we slip into a very short break. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching Beyond World is One. Stay tuned.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Well, we'll see. I'll let you know.
And are you going to see the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East. Thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with this agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
Yeah. It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Cross from Israeli Channel 13 News.
They went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu last night?
I speak to everybody.
You urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
Have you spoken to him this morning? How confident are you that Iran is completely demolished?
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
Do you believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every